Good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Very good. Very good. What's new and exciting?
Um, Things pass so quickly.
Yes, they do.
There's mostly interpersonal communication with a lot of different people. Those are the most exciting things that are going on in my life. And I did finish the fence that I needed to repair. And it was funny, the building inspector pulled up and just sort of sat there in his car looking at it because I did replace one whole section, 8-foot section of the fence with the design on one side. What I was replacing was some stockade fence that I just simply put up because I ran out of time to build the new stuff, which was more intricate. So I put up that panel, and I think that's what he was assessing. Is this a job or is this maintenance?
Huh.
And then he realized the age of the other wood, um, even though I put a new cap on it. And no, it turned out very well. The garden's looking a little weak because it's so hot out. And we haven't had rain for 2 weeks now.
Oh,
I mean, we're still like way ahead in the year. 42 is against 37-inch expected for this time of year, way ahead. But it's been 2 weeks.
right. Well, if it doesn't stay in the soil, it doesn't matter.
And we
Yeah,
have a lot of well, we have tremendous soil, but it can dry out after a while.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So we'll see. We keep getting little teases like on the weather thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
on the TV, it said there was a 50% chance of rain on Saturday. Now that's a pretty good chance. On this weather report on the phone, it's more that there's 1 or 2 hours shown for tomorrow and 1 hour today, 2 hours tomorrow, where it's shown as all cloudy.
Yeah.
You're not even making a prediction. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't had much rain here either, actually, lately. It rained yesterday enough for me to see drops on tops of the garbage cans to know that it did, but that was about it. So it's hardly a rain.
We have had plenty of rain, that's for sure. In fact, the whole summer, the garden was just thriving. But
Well, it's been so hot here. It's been at least 90 for weeks. And now we're into the high 80s, so it's not so bad. But and it was over 100 a bunch of days too. So it was very hot. And not having rain has been really stressful. The grass is not doing so hot. The shade part of the garden is okay.
yeah,
But I water it periodically. So
I mean that's very similar to here, except we've never gotten over 98
oh, nice.
all summer.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's kind of a yardstick for me because when it gets over 100, then yeah, it's not normal. Yeah.
So, what's been on your mind?
Oh, I've been caught up in technology. It's just been one challenge after another trying to outsmart the digital jockeys. Trying to figure out how to make things work when it's not working quite the way it's supposed to. So I've been doing an awful lot of that, which is one of my least favorite things to do. But we're getting ready for classes. So I'm
Good.
trying to find a piece of land. We're doing a class on land listening. And it's being held by a guy I deeply respect. He's an old timer, one of the first soil folks decades ago, co-created a thing called the Soil Carbon Coalition. Um, and he's been very generous in offering the class, but also a bit disdainful about who I am or what. I mean, he doesn't know me from Adam, and he was very nice in offering the class, but he's not been incredibly forthcoming with what he actually wants to do. And so I'm trying to find a piece of land for us to walk, and they want to know.
So it would be an in-person class.
Yeah, it's a very in-person. He's coming, I
I thought
assume.
it was online, so I was going to
Oh, no, we are actually gonna
I'm not
walk with
flying
him.
out to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's in Oregon, so he's coming from Oregon to, and they're going to spend the night and to do the class. And I have to find a piece of land, and since I don't really know what he's doing, that's kind of awkward. And he's told me what he wants. Okay. But anyway, so then I'm talking to people about land, and they want to know what we're doing, and so I made up what I thought it was, and then I repeated it. I sent it to Peter, and I said, "This is what I'm telling people, that you're going to look at soil and soil texture and soil kind and condition and water and how it's flowing over the land." And he says, "Oh, well, no, don't do so specific. We're talking about soil health." And so, okay, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm hoping to have a piece of land on Monday that
Well,
I can find something with a bunch of enough of a variety within a walking distance that it will serve. I'm going to take some videos and share them with them, and we'll see what happens. So that's been sort of the big concern, and then trying to market the other classes, and yeah. Anyway, so I will feel a lot better when I have people registered.
some of the other ones, they will be online.
Yeah, the Rethinking Climate Change is online, and the Rethinking Lawns is online. Well, and the biochar is online too, actually. That's just a webinar. It's a 1 day thing. The others are both courses. They're 3 and 4 weeks each. They're in the newsletter, which you should have gotten.
I did. No,
Okay.
no, I did go over that, but you just surprised me by saying that this first one is, but now that I think about it, of course it would be
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of has to be. So,
on site.
yeah. And that is good actually in a way, because it helps me work locally with people, and get them involved. And I have to say that Peter, the guy who's going to do the class, really wants to work with nature, with conservancies, conservation districts, which is what is hosting this. And everybody I've talked to there has been real excited about the class. They really want to learn how to listen to the land. That is something that intrigues them. Um, but so I'm hoping we can find land through them so that they will feel comfortable hosting. Right now, they're kind of, the one person I talked to says, "Well, I'm not going to be around. I can't do this. I don't figure, I don't think this is going to work for me." So, and he's doing ag and farming. So he was looking at ag and farming land, which is fine. And then the other guy who I'm going to meet with on Monday is doing forests. So his focus is forest. So I'm hoping we can find the edge of a forest so that we can get into different kinds of land that would be treed, not treed, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we're going to look for. So if we can do that, that is great. But he's like, "Oh, can I bring students to come with us and all that kind of stuff?" I mean, they're really excited. So if we could find a way to make it happen, I think it would be great for everybody. And I think that they would um, really support the enrollment of folks, although it's on a sliding scale. So a bunch of folks can be free. So we'll see how that goes. But I have to pay for him coming over and staying. So hoping the class will support that. So we'll see.
Well, I want to give you some more support. Maybe that'll just be my reason to send you a gift to help support that. It's so,
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah, I've got to set up and see, this is another little piece that is making me nuts because we're not technically a nonprofit yet.
uh,
My hope is to, what I want to have happen is to be a project of another nonprofit. So they do all the bookkeeping. So they have the cachet for grants. Been in existence for a long time. They've done all that. So they fit all those categories. And especially if I do federal grants, they have the capacity to manage that. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to pay somebody to do it. Um, but they won't sign me up as a project until can prove I have enough money coming in to pay for their fees, which makes perfect sense. But and so I don't feel comfortable asking for donations when I'm not really nonprofit. And then they're saying, well, it's fine because if you do it in a year, it'll all roll over and everything will be okay. Okay. But anyway, so I haven't really put donation buttons up and that kind of stuff for that reason. Um, and yeah, so I got a new board member. I'm really excited about him. He just retired from the Washington Forestry Service, and he's a big biochar supporter. So I'm really hoping he will be interested in doing stuff. We'll see, so we'll see. But he's really knowledgeable. I mean, and he's really connected. He's done papers that everybody recommend or respects, and he's written with a lot of the other people I know and that kind of stuff. So he's a name in a way. So that should be really helpful. So he just came on board yesterday, so that's fun. So, things are and I'm on a personal level, the hip surgery is coming up in 10 days, less than 10 days, 9 days, something like that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really hoping that's going to make the difference.
yeah,
I'm
that's sort
hoping.
of in and out in one day, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. So we'll see.
It really changed it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
streamlined whole affair.
Yep. So I've talked to my doctor about the issues that I'm seeing, and he's not paying attention to me. So I'll talk to me, so I'm going to see him on the 20th. And I will then talk to him about the issues because my hip is not right. I'm hoping it's because it's old and needs to be changed. But there could be more to it than that. I don't know. And he's not really into the body, he's into the hip.
As a separate component. And
Yes, yeah, it has nothing to do with anything else. So we'll see. I have no idea what the results are going to be. Yeah, and
this has really been what I've been thinking about primarily lately, and that is how we actually fit within our body
mm,
as we get older. Um, what kinds of things do we hang on to in terms of beliefs and druthers,
yeah, yeah,
preferences, or actual fact. I mean, I used to be able to, yeah, and that was 20 years ago, and you can't do it anymore
yeah, yeah.
because the whole point is, with a number of others, I'm exploring this whole um, subject of, elders. How
Well,
do
and
we provide
yeah,
space in the world for elders other than as extreme specialists? See, that's the rub. Oh yeah, this person is extremely good at that, but otherwise, forget about it.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
you know,
Well, I'm also having trouble with my eyesight. So I'm looking at what happens when you can't see, how and what's the process for that and how do you manage, how can you be effective and engaged in your life in the process of that? Because I don't know whether I'm going to end up not being able to see at all, or I can see some things and other things I can see generally right now, but reading is really hard. So if that gets worse, how do I function? What do I do?
And do
One
you
of
have
my
any
skills,
idea?
I'm
Do you
sorry?
have any idea? Have you had any kind of testing done?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm testing and I'm gonna start eye shots
Good.
next week. But I don't hear that those shots are going to improve. They may keep it where it is for a while, but not make it better. So, I mean, I don't know. And I haven't, and I'm doing a couple
Is
of
the normal
alternative.
progression of what you think is going on the fact that you're going to lose your eyesight?
Well, macular degeneration does do that, yes.
Okay,
And I know people who have had that, have gotten to that point. So I
right.
know that's a possibility. Whether it will actually happen or not is, they don't know. Um, so yeah, so I'm just trying to figure that out and to be as engaged and as possible. Um, yeah, just trying to figure out what that looks like. And I know other people have done it. Certainly, Helen Keller is is a poster child for being able to live a rich life without being able to see. So it's not like it's impossible, but it's a big change. It's really different than things I've done before.
There's no question about that. And
Yeah, and I'm not
that's,
as young and resilient as she was when she started.
well, she was much younger when she made the transition. That's
Yeah,
another factor.
yeah,
But
yeah,
this is something that I'm very interested in, and I'm talking to a lot of people about it because it makes a huge difference.
yeah.
We don't have to play the same roles. I mean,
No, but even your life. I mean, cleaning your house, all those things are impacted by that.
yeah,
Right now, it's hard for me to bend over, so I really do as little of that as possible. Do you know how often you need to bend over in life?
yeah, I do because
It's a
every
ton.
time I do it, it leaves an impression in my back muscle.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah,
That's why I do it first thing in the morning is just really limber up that whole area
yeah, yeah,
vigorously.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
Terry and I dance a little bit.
Oh, that's nice.
You
Yeah,
know, it's just to some of our favorite Motown tunes. So it really gets us moving. And yeah, it's very important
yeah, yeah.
because the world needs us.
Well, and we need the world too. I mean, that's part of being here is feeling like you're engaged in it in some kind of meaningful way. So,
Well, I know, and I know you know that. That's why I was just emphasizing the other point.
yeah.
The world needs us, and they don't know that for the most part.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
it doesn't know that the human world of consciousness.
yeah,
And there's a driving force inside of me. I used the image today of a rider on a horse, and the horse being our body and its sort of general worldly consciousness, the rider being that part of us which is of God and rises above that. And I realized that once we begin to tap into that, there's really nothing that can stop us as long as we're allow ourselves to be very resilient and flexible, because it's requiring, as I go through my own issues, my own conditions, I realize that it requires me to be extremely flexible,
mm,
and not just physically, although I do work on that a lot,
yeah,
but mentally.
yep, yeah. Attitude and resourcefulness.
Yeah, because we really are national treasures.
Oh, it's nice to think about. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I think we have to. I mean, you know, we get total representation seems to be on the political sphere where it's all men, and they're starting to lose their ability to speak. Their mouth freezes up, or they're just proclaiming gibberish, or they fall asleep. Um, those people are our age. The ones I'm thinking of, and
Yeah,
they're our age. Well, maybe Mitch McConnell's a little bit older, but it they should not be representing us as the soul represent.
I I read an article about that a woman wrote about the youth. And one of the interesting things she said, and the phrase really sticks in my mind, that the kids are really looking at adults as being the responsible ones, the ones who have agency, who can do stuff. And then they're the adult adults, the politicians. And thinking about that phrase, that the public figures are adult adults, is kind of an interesting way of thinking about the expectations that youth might have of the people they see and the roles in which they see them,
Yeah,
and how far we seem to be falling short. And I think the missing conversation about the responsibility that the kids are not seeing happening, which is really true. I mean, we're all seeing that. We're all feeling that nobody's taking charge or really doing what they're supposed to do. Has to do really with the sense of separation, that we don't understand our agency in the world because we're not in the world at all. We're not paying attention to the planet. We're paying attention to our civilization, to each other, to our careers, to all that kind of stuff, which has nothing to do with the problems we're in. And
yeah,
so we
that's
can't engage with it because we're not engaged with it. I mean, that's just true.
that's why I draw the line where world, I'm usually talking about human consciousness, which is totally introspective, totally wrapped up in itself. And the natural world is what I would call the setting, the only setting we've ever known and can know.
It's reality. Everything else is not reality.
I mean, just this morning, a friend of mine sent out a little. He gets these little letters that he writes up, or he has somebody write up, you know, stating nice little things, and this one was a riff on, birds and why they sing, and he proposed two theories, both of them very mentally derived. So I wrote back to reply all, and it's a big setting. I said, well, the last time I went camping in the forest, I was awoken, about 4 by this cacophony of bird song. And I said, I have this abiding memory of just absolute joy. And I said, I don't think I was the only creature in that space that was experiencing that. And so I've got an immediate reply back from another guy who close to. He said, God hope that you're correct, that's true. Well, of course it is.
Yeah.
To think that the birds aren't feeling anything, for one
Well,
thing. And
yeah.
of course it's joy.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
we've
maybe
been
we can
really,
quibble about what is joyful about. I mean, the sun came back. No, that's maybe a little mentalizing it too much, but it's just this shared time of joy.
yeah, another day. Woo.
So,
Yeah.
accept that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've been really trained not to amorph anthropomorphize.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
And it's become a pejorative. It's a bad thing to do. And it's not. It's a way to create empathy and to see the relational
Yeah,
space that we share. And so I I wrote a long article which I just posted everywhere, called The Leadership of Water, based on actually our talk last week and Ani's thing. I sent it to her, but I haven't gotten a response. And I had a friend in another group who we always have this tension. He doesn't like to be interrupted, which is unfortunate because that's something I do. But he takes it personal. He's got the white guy thing, you can't do this to me, attitude about it. And so he's kind of prickly around me in a lot of ways. We all, claiming that we're very different. And I don't see us as that different, actually, but that's okay. So anyway, I wrote this article, and what he did was he sent it to Chat GPT to get its opinion. And it came back with, well, a lot of this is true and factual and real science. And then there's this quasi science about values and, anthropomorphizing and all that. It's like, yes. And I'm wondering why he did that. What was the point? I mean, he didn't give me new information. I knew exactly where things were. If he'd asked me, I would have told him. you know so there's this, just I don't know how I got onto that, except it must be a thing for me, but there's this disconnect we have from the natural world, and we don't understand how to be in connection with it. I guess that was my point. I was trying to say that if we say we want to learn from nature, what does that look like?
Yeah.
How do you learn from nature? What?
Well,
So
there's a saying that that which you can't imagine because it comes out of God. Whatever we're thinking of when we talk about heaven and God, that which you can't imagine, you can experience.
yeah,
And that's how I would phrase my time spent with the birds. I mean,
birds.
there
Yes,
was
yes,
there was
yes.
a real concentration there. There were a lot of birds. This wasn't just a that's why I started with cacophony. I mean, it started out rough, but it became sublime.
Ah,
And the squirrels, I looked up and there were squirrels with their jaws wide open, and everyone was involved. I didn't go into that in my reply, but it was an extraordinary experience. I witnessed pure joy for the first time in my life. It's
yeah.
the way I look at it.
Wow.
And those kinds of experiences, that connection can be experienced, directly. And then we filter it through our minds and, put it to
Right.
words and
Yeah.
feel the experience all over again each time. But I think for me, that's how I learn from nature.
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
Yeah. Well, I think there's comparisons too when we begin to, and I think this is how we learned originally, frankly. We watched the natural world and watched what other animals did and said, oh my gosh, they eat that. We could do that. Oh, look, they're warm under the earth. Gee, maybe we could use that. I mean, you know, we learn from each other. You get to see what people are doing. Um, I watched last night, this is a minor segue, but not really. I watched last night a documentary on some work they're doing in Mozambique in uh, a preserve that they've got, which is pretty large. Um, Gozambique or Gozambi or something. I'm not going to remember. I'm not remembering the name right, but it was war torn, so a lot of the animals were decimated. The land was not, but most of the animals were killed. And so they're trying to bring back the animals in the preserve. So they brought a lot of creatures came back, but when they looked at it, they felt there was something not right about it because some of the animals were not acting in the way they usually do. Like the bush antelope were not in the bush; they were out on the grasslands, and that they're called bush because they hide, and they weren't hiding. And they realized it was because they had no predators. And so when they brought back different predators, then it starts to the groups start to go into their little niches, but they need the pressure from each other to stay in those niches. And then they got into research that they're doing around the role of fear in a culture, basically. And it's very interesting because animals will forego high nutrition food for safety. And when they do that, that impacts their ability to reproduce, both the quality of the offspring, whether it's eggs or critters, because they're not getting the nutrition they would otherwise have, and they don't reproduce as often because they're being more vigilant. So that the fear that predators instill in ecosystem keep things in balance because everybody finds a niche where they're okay, where they're safe. They may not be as opulent as they could be, but they're safe. So it made me think about people because we don't do fear very well. When we're afraid, we kill it. So we don't have many things that we're afraid of. We don't have anything that's helping us manage our space like other critters do. We are in total control of that. We have to be responsible for not doing the luxury role, but for foregoing some of our own personal pleasures for the grander good. There's nobody forcing us to do that. We have to take on that role consciously in relationship and responsibility. I think that's part of this lesson that we're in terms of the climate change and all of that. How do we get out of it? And we get out of it by being part of the group again. And we don't
We're
really, sorry.
working together.
Yeah, but we don't have anything to fear. We don't have anything that's putting pressure on us to stay in our lane. So we have to recognize our lane and stay there purposely. But we don't understand a lane. We don't have that engagement with the natural world that would give us that feedback.
Well, there we do live with a higher level operation in our of a consciousness.
I'm
And
not sure
so
about that.
people feel these things, and that's why they turn to the drugs.
Yeah,
Um, that
yeah,
is a huge aspect of at least the American population, but I understand it's worldwide from what I read. I've never experienced that directly, but um, it's worldwide. People are turning to, the security of just having their minds go numb.
yeah,
Um, I mean, that is definitely happening. And they may not be able to tell you why. Any particular person may not be. I mean,
right.
there's this whole kerfluffle about having children. I never had children specifically because I did not want to bring a child into this world, contributing to this population growth, which in the 70s was immense in China, for
Yeah,
instance. So they switched to the one child program.
which they're
Um,
getting out of, by the way.
they're what?
They're
Yeah,
getting out. Yeah, yeah.
but
It didn't work.
it's just, yeah, I mean, various human beings are doing things very specific. But I think those concerns, we'll call them concerns, but it's a vibrational impact, is impacting everybody. And the weaker ones are turning to drugs, and it's everywhere.
More sensitive, I would say, not weaker, but more sensitive.
Sorry. No, I think you're you're very right.
Yeah, I think actually those are the treasures in a way because they're kind of like the canaries. that are sensitive enough to say, this isn't right, this isn't right, we've got to do something different, and nobody's listening. So we make them wrong. And that is
I guess
just,
I say weaker because they didn't have the wherewithal to fight it,
yeah.
to say, that may be the case, but that's not the way I'm going down.
Mhm.
Um, which is what I would say the two of us, the route we chose. Um, I don't know. I'm just sort of talking in general statements, but there is a lot of fear, and particularly, that it's become a political, you know,
Yeah.
thing
The,
now, is to
yeah.
emphasize the fear, emphasize the hate. I mean, there is such an atmosphere of hate now that, I don't ever remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a black man, so otherwise I might remember pretty clearly. But
Yeah.
as a child growing up white, I definitely did not see it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Our fear is more ambiguous, though. It's not really targeted. It doesn't come from something. It's an experience we have, but we don't know where it comes from or what we're afraid of, really. It's hard to articulate. It's a more general, amorphous kind of
Right.
fear or anxiety. Where if we had predators, it would be really clear. That's, that there's the story's been told for a long time that if we get people coming from outer space, maybe we'll band together and do stuff,
Right.
because then we have a predator or somebody we would see in that role that would focus us and enable us to engage in a more precise way. And I think that is the role of the predators in the environment, in the natural environment with other animals. And when we stepped out of that, we did not understand the blessing that we had in that capacity, which we felt we overcame, but in actuality, we lost. We lost that pressure, which was a good pressure to have.
Yeah.
Um,
Because the predator's different. I mean, now people are totally afraid of, say, cancer, various diseases, COVID. I mean, just that got
right, right, right.
tossed into the mix and suddenly, freak out.
Yeah.
And admittedly, it's difficult because nobody knew. A tiger, facing a tiger, well, what you maybe the only thing you can do, perhaps, and you somewhat know what the consequences are going to be.
And it's right there. You can put your fingers on it. Yeah.
Whereas the things that we really are afraid of, that really do confront us, we can't see at all.
Yeah.
They're little cellular things that we can't even see them without a microscope.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just really interesting to think of the role of fear in a positive way as having a benefit and not being a negative to be avoided, which is certainly how I grew up and have
Yeah.
seen
Well,
it.
it's interesting you should bring it up. I really love that point of view you're taking because, in fact, the mobilization against COVID um, brought
Or
up some amazing things within the
right.
population until became a political boondoggle. But
Yeah.
for a while there, it was really quite spectacular.
Well,
Um,
and that's why crisis brings out the best in us, you know, in that kind of way. I think we've really lost something in not understanding that aspect of our relationship to the rest of the natural world.
yep.
That the things we call predators are really good things to have there in many ways.
No, that's a wonderful thought. We live with a little predator, but all she does is she just bugs the hell out of us with her. She's like a little child, wah, wah, wah.
So we saw last night a Nova thing on cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that sound triggers the same parts of our brain that the crying of a baby does.
Yeah. Well, Chloe figured it out.
Yes, I'm sure it's deliberate. I have absolutely no doubt that
I totally
that they
agree.
went, oh my God, they respond to that. We can do that.
Yeah, it works every time.
It
Well,
does.
it doesn't work so much with him, but it does work with her.
Yeah,
They can be very,
yeah. I
very
have no,
specific about it.
yep, 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 yeah, yep.
Because I
Yeah,
can pretty much sit through it. Uh, I guess wouldn't I guess I wouldn't have made much of a father. I would have those early years. I mean, the one boy I brought up was about 9 years old when I got there, and I'm still in touch with him at 39. Uh,
nice.
so
Yeah, I
there
like
is
teenagers.
connection.
Yeah, I'm not so interested in younger kids.
I don't think I mean,
They have just never really been my cup of tea. So I was really grateful my husband was much more into younger kids. It worked out.
Terry, she actually did pretty much help bring up a couple of kids all the way through from birth until currently, when they're in their 40s, mid 40s, late 40s. Um, but she loves children.
Mm.
I let her, she can take on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, it's not an exciting spot for me either. My daughter is quick to tell me how that was true.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting.
Well, I mean, if we looked at the so-called natural world again for comparisons, um, it's just a whole lot of hard work generally being with the young ones and can make, very vulnerable, to make the mother creature, whatever it is,
Yeah,
vulnerable,
yeah,
more vulnerable to attack.
yeah,
And yet, that process of bonding with a yearling, and teaching it everything, I mean, then, that it's just the same as working with a teenager, or a preteen,
yeah.
where it's actually fun. I mean, I can see a lot of natural coinciding um, elements.
Uh, yeah, learning to really accept what is and the difference between accepting it and making it right, because those are two different things. I see this in people who've experienced abuse, that in one of the ways of dealing with that is to accept and love the abuser,
Mhm.
which means that you really get hooked in to bad behaviors as an example of love. Because if you love them and that's what they did, then those behaviors must be okay. Which is why I think a lot of people who are abused become abusers, because that's become the way in which we express a certain kind of love, or what we have decided was a loving expression, or that we made into a loving expression. Um, and but so there's a difference between accepting what is and making it right. And I don't think that that's really necessarily beneficial, but we don't talk about it either. So people do that sort of on their own. I just got a quick text. Let's see, just a minute.
Well, if you've got to take care of something, I could certainly, there's some things I could be doing too.
Well, let me see if he can wait 20 minutes or so. Oh, that's okay. That's who he is. He was a Tyler, and I was thinking of this other Ty, and it's another Ty. So, and I think he'll be fine with 20 minutes. I can't imagine that's going to be a big problem. Okay. So thank you for that. Sorry. Yeah, it's just it's been real interesting to be in this space. Uh to be able to see changes as real possibilities as opposed to not really in my existence at all, and to try and think about how to manage them in a way that makes me feel good about having
What I'm
good.
finding is this, the reason I do the horse and rider, example, the analog, is that there's trustworthy aspects on each side.
Yeah,
And there's a trustworthy sense of yourself, being the horse and the consciousness, that you're mature enough that it all works together.
yeah,
And there's this trustworthy sense from the inner self of something that truly is responsive and works. And I'm just beginning to see that it's about trust. For instance, the cancer. I'm getting more and more comments from different specialists. So, it's not any specific rut that they might be in. Different people, friends, who have some insight, so to speak, that they're dormant. I mean, they're there. You'll find them on the PET scan, but with the particular diet that I'm taking, they're not going to wake up, at least not soon. And I'm moving to the point where I feel I can trust that and start to build upon it. So that's what I'm talking about, but it requires trust. It's not about think something through, it's
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's
There's
about
something you
accepting
don't know. Yeah,
fully and then trusting that this is going to work. So I don't have to put all of my energy into fighting that.
yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
and
and yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at too, even with my eyesight, is how to make it work instead of
yeah,
being in resistance to that.
and these
Yeah.
are the sorts of things that this friend of mine, the same one who wrote the notes about the birds singing, um, he's actually I've been helping him for several years now put together a course on it's called
Aging.
creative. Uh, what does it stand for? Conscious, healthy aging.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we talk about these things, and I'm definitely in the background, but I edit all of his stuff, as we go. He prepares. I mean, he's pedantic and I'm not. I'll do the infill speaking, and he loves to teach, which is the real word of pedantic, by the way. So, I we've been finding insights even for ourselves.
Mhm.
He's not as old as I am. He's actually almost 15 years younger.
Well.
makes a huge difference. But
Good old days.
maybe 13 years younger. But he's facing a lot of stuff himself. And to just realize that none of this is a death warrant, none of this is a what, where the crook comes out and hauls you out of the game.
Well, it just changes the game, though. See, that's
Changes it, but you can still do what you need to do. And I think
well,
that's
yeah,
a very important thing to get across to those we elders.
yeah. Well, and I, I'm a firm believer in reincarnation too, and I've certainly had experience of other friends dying and the space right after death where there's still quite a connection. So it's not like we cease to exist; it just changes. Our existence changes.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's a new adventure, and then we get to embody again. So, yeah. So there's that. It's just, yeah, being non-attached to
Thing
what
is,
you're
I
doing.
don't think there's going to be too many turns around the earthly sphere. Too many. This is really a climax period in my mind.
Well,
What's
for
right
human
now?
life on the planet, is
We
that
have
what
to
you
get it right. Yeah.
yeah, well, but there are other planets. See, that's the
Well,
thing. Yeah.
that I don't know anything about. I'll take your word to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, and in other groups, and this is decades ago, I was told that other species have trashed their planet just like we are. So that tells me that this is a process as well for the species as a whole, and we get to do it all again somewhere else if we don't get it right this time. So, I mean, that it is truly a climax moment. I mean, it really does is the place where we choose to mature and grow up or not. And it's a species decision. So I mean, we each make it ourselves, but it will take enough of the collective to get us all into a different game.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
and we'll do it or we won't do it.
it,
So
it isn't just what a waste if we miss.
no, no, no.
That's not what I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about is what an ecstatic joy.
If we get it right,
We get
yes,
it right. It would be like that early morning,
yes,
of the birds and the
yeah,
everything else that's alive. It was sounded like it was joining in.
yep, 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 yep.
I think that would happen, human
I,
being finally on track with us. What
yes, yeah,
what absolute consummate joy.
yep, yep. That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, it's way more than just us. Everybody would be just delighted. Yeah. Yeah. It's the same joy we see when our children finally get it and finally, you know, take hold of their lives and do what they are supposed to do, whatever that is. It's wonderful.
Well, my
Wonderful.
stepson, I don't know if he's done that. He, he hasn't really opened up in certain ways, and I don't press him.
Well, everybody's got their
Probably
own.
makes $500,000 a year, so as far as he's concerned, he's fine.
That sounds like my brother. Yeah, he's making enough money, so he must be okay, but he's not really.
No, I mean, and Zach is still young enough that there's plenty of time to turn around. He's really sharp. I'm not saying that he's a real glutton or you know
Right.
definitely no. He's considered to be a really great guy. But I'm just saying I don't think he's found the true connection yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe we can start talking about those things someday. I look forward to it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. No, I've that's been the tension between my brother and I. because he just doesn't want to talk about that. He wants to stay in the cocoon that he's made for himself because he was able to see how to make it in the culture and be successful in the culture. And I'm saying, well, that's not really what's important. And of course, so that's been our tension all our life. And we used to have physical fights over it, actually. And now he's just a jerk, and he'll tell you that he can be a jerk. When I get that way, he just is not going to do it, and then he comes back in another way. And I'm just tired of the game. I really appreciate when he hits the love in his heart, he is amazing, but he doesn't do it all very often. And the only place I've ever seen him do it is with his wife. Um, but he doesn't stay in that space at all. And that's kind of where it's like, but I don't care about the rest of it. That's the only part that makes sense to me. So if you're going to be there, we can be friends. If you're not going to be there, you know, you're an acquaintance. You're somebody I've known for a long time. Hi, what's
But you can
happened?
still see the signs, like Zach has told me this time that he has a new girlfriend. And what he described made it pretty clear without him having to say so that it's a very serious girlfriend. And he really took it on the chin 8 years ago with another young woman.
Hmm.
It was devastating. So to me, I'm saying, oh, okay,
Good.
this
Yeah.
is a flowering that could be very, very fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, he shares some of it with me, but not much.
Yeah.
I made it clear I'm not your father and I know it, so you don't have to tell me that stuff. I'm the godfather, maybe, but I don't say that either.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm gonna take off. There's something I want
Okay.
to see.
Okay. All right.
You,
Nice to spend time with you. I'm
it's
all your
always
water,
wonderful.
honey. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And I meant what I said. That you need some support out there.
Oh, if you could, yeah, if you'd want to send something, I would be very appreciative.
I have enough extra to do that, at least because you're
All
putting
right.
in some. So,
Do you need an address or something like that?
well, I sent one before. Yes, I do have your address.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, I can check in an instant. Let's see. I sure do. 1819 East Liberty.
Yeah, it's still there. Yep.
Cheers to you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Okay.